Hey guys, I am Naguura, and today we're going to do something new. So this is going to be the first part of a new series that I'm going to start on my channel. The series is going to be how to prepare for a boss fight as a damage dealer to get the most out of your class and do the most damage. Alright, so a lot of people just basically blindly go into a boss fight, mainly on Mythic as well. And then you waste a lot of time figuring out what talents you should be using, when to use your cooldowns, your offensive and your defensive cooldowns, and so on. This time could theoretically be saved if you research something beforehand and if you prepare for the boss a little bit more. Now, before people get mad in the comments, I do want to clarify that this is, of course, fine to do if that's how you want to do it. If you don't want to prepare beforehand for a boss like that and you don't want to research something and you just want to learn by doing, then that's totally fine. That is a fine playstyle, and if that's what you want to do, then that's totally okay. But if you're a person that really wants to be as prepared as possible when you go to a boss fight for the first time and you want to waste as little time possible for things like these, then this video series is going to be something for you. Today is going to be more of a general approach to bosses in general and what you should be doing. But later on, I'm going to go into more detail for every single boss in Castle Nathria, how exactly you should be preparing yourself and what you should be looking at in locks and so on. And then also for future raids once they come out. But today it's just going to be more of a general view and just an introduction into this series of videos. So first of all, you need to understand how the boss works. I know this is a little bit of a forehead statement to make, but if you don't at least understand the previous difficulty of the boss, so let's say you want to prepare for a mythic boss fight, you need to at least understand the heroic version of the boss fight. Otherwise, this guide is not really going to help you out because you need to understand the boss first. There's many great guides out there you can use to learn the fight. If you prefer a video guide, then I can recommend Fat Boss TV, for example, or you can use Ready Check Pull. They make great guides as well, but there's many out there. You can watch whichever one you prefer. And then there's also written guides. I personally really recommend mythictrap.com because they have written guides, but they also have GIFs and videos that show you specific mechanics that they're talking about in a written version. So just visualize it more so you know what it's talking about, and I think that is really great. They also do something similar for Mythic Plus, not just for the raid, so make sure you check it out if you prefer written guides over videos. I also made a video on how to prepare for the raid properly with your UI specifically. So if you want to make sure you have a proper setup UI and weak auras and your timers are working properly and your raid frames are set up, then check out that video. Later on, once I do the more specific videos for each boss in Castle Nathria, I will also link weak auras for those specific boss fights in those videos as well. But if you want to check out that video, that's more of a general thing on what you should be doing if you want to be preparing for multiple boss fights and not for Mythic, for example. So if you just want to prepare for a full heroic clear, then I prefer watching that other video because then you probably don't have to go into such detail for each and every boss. All right, our best tool to prepare for a boss specifically would be, in my opinion, warcraftlocks.com. When we open up warcraftlocks.com, I just want to give you a disclaimer beforehand real quick. You need to look at the locks logically, right? Because we all know a lot of people go to the rankings of a boss fight and they look at the number 1 parse and they do exactly what that player did. They use the same talents, the same cooldown usage, and so on, because they think, oh, this person did the most damage, so I should be doing what this person does. But keep in mind that if you're looking at a guild that has killed this boss already 20 times, then it's very different for them than it might be for you if you're trying to kill the boss for the first time, right? Because re-killing a boss is much easier. The guild might have a lot more average item level than your guild has. I mean, if that guild is a 230 item level average guild, and your guild just has 200 item level on average, then you're not going to be playing the boss the same. Because these guys are just going to be out DPSing all the mechanics, basically, while you need to play the boss as intended. And so it's going to be a lot more difficult for you, and you might have to change your cooldown usage compared to what this number 1 parsing player did. So I recommend, if you're trying to look into logs more thoroughly, like if you're trying to look exactly on when a person used their cooldowns, you want to look exactly what they did, then I recommend finding logs of a guild that just recently killed the boss for the first time. Because a first kill is going to be the most accurate thing that you want to be doing when you kill the boss for the first time, right? So either look for a guild that just recently killed the boss for the first time and prepare your cooldown usage that way, looking at those players. Or if you want to look at the guild that is higher ranked, if you want to look at the world top 10 guild, or you want to look at the world top 20 guild or whatever, then try to find their first kill and not one of the farm kills. Some of the higher ranked guilds, they don't public log their first couple of kills, so that might be a problem. But if you find like one of the higher ranked guilds that do log, then just make sure you look for those, first kills or second kills, because those were the kills where they still played their strategy properly and used their cooldowns on the things that they should be using their cooldowns on. So once we open up warcraftlogs.com, you go to whichever boss you want to prepare for, right? So on the top left, you see this option here, you open it up, and then you just look at the current rate and you look at the boss you want to prepare for. Let's assume we would want to prepare for a Shriekwing. So on Shriekwing, first of all, we could go to the rankings first to just check some general things that we want to see. I want to go to my class, first of all, right? Because these are the overall rankings, but we would want to see what I specifically have to do with my class. I play Balanced Druid, so let's look at Balanced Druid. All right, so now you can see the top 100 breakdown here at the top. It tells you the talents that most people have used and the talents that are least used. For example, you can see 99% of the players have been playing Starlord and only 1% of the players Incarnation. This is the top 100 breakdown, so that means that only one player has used Incarnation and 99 people have used Starlord. So at 100%, so 100 players of the 100 parses have been using Stellar Flare. So this is a very interesting thing to look at talents, right? You can see for Moonkins, it seems very straightforward, right? The only difference in talents we can see here between the parses are the utility ones, the ones that don't actually give you damage. You can see the affinity, which is just damage reduction or healing. And then you can also see some people who are playing Mass Root, which does nothing, of course. But if you don't need Heart of the Wild, then it doesn't really matter what talents you're using. So yeah, it's pretty obvious to me, once I look at these talents here, that I should be also using these talents, right? So you want to go for Nature's Balance, you want to go for Starlord, Stellar Flare, and Solstice. The other talents are utility talents and are free to your liking. You can choose whatever you want. So once we have figured out the talents here, and you can also see the conduits on the side as well, you can see the Soulbinds, Trinkets, Conduits, and the legendary as well here on the side. So if that's something that you want to know, if you're not sure which conduits to use or you're not sure which legendary to use, then this can really, really help. And you can just look at what other people have been doing. Once we know the more general thing, you can also look at more details. I'm just going to find my own log here. It doesn't matter which log you look at. You can look at the higher up logs. Of course, there's going to be some logs where you don't understand the language, or rather the letters. So you should definitely find a log that you can understand. For example, Shroomy here from Northern Sky is the highest ranked Moonkin, so you can check out this log if you wanna. I'm just going to check out my own log because that's going to be easier for me. One thing that I want to note here, specifically for Shriekwing, this should be more of a general video, but for Shriekwing, we do know that Shriekwing has intermission phases where she's not attackable, right? She takes 0 damage, and you can see that in the logs here. You can see this is a damage graph from the raid, how much damage the whole raid has done to the boss at what point in time of the boss kill, right? You can see the timeline is here at the bottom. So you can see that at this point in time, there hasn't been done any damage to the boss. So that means this is the intermission phase where Shriekwing is not attackable. And then again here at 4 minutes 30, you see that the same thing happened again. And immediately we can already tell something about this boss, right? From just looking at this graph and understanding how the boss works. We see that on this boss, there's a timed phase where you can't do any damage to the boss. You can see the first phase starts at 2 minutes and the second time starts at 4:30. right? So this is definitely very important, and that's something you should note because it's really going to affect your cooldown usage. If you have 2-minute cooldowns, then you won't be able to use the 2-minute cooldowns immediately as they come up, right? Because at exactly 2 minutes, the boss is getting unattackable, and therefore your 2 minutes can only be used again at like 2:30 approximately. So if you have, for example, a talent that reduces a 3-minute cooldown to a 2-minute cooldown, then it might not be worth to use the talent on this boss fight because you won't be able to use it on 2 minutes. That's something you can think about. Or also with trinkets, maybe. Maybe if you choose, if you have a 2-minute trinket or a 3-minute cooldown trinket, then the 3-minute cooldown trinket might be better for this fight specifically because you can't really use the 2-minute cooldown trinket as soon as it comes back up, right? So that's one thing I wanted to just note because I've seen it real quick here. One more thing that I forgot about, let's go back to the rankings. And that's the kill duration, which is also incredibly important. If you look at the duration here, you can see how long the boss has been alive for. You see this is 4 minutes 1, 4 minute 9, 4:15, 3:53, and so on, right? You can see the kill times here. Now, one thing that I already mentioned earlier, don't look at the kill time of a guild that has a lot higher item level than your guild. If you look at a kill time from a guild that has average item level 225, then you're not going to be able to kill that boss as quickly as that guild, right? But kill time is really important because it matters for your CD usage. If a kill, for example, lasts only 4 minutes, as this number 1 log, then you can't use your 2 minutes for a third time. You can only use it at pull and at 2 minutes, and then you can't use it again at 4, right? But if your kill time is longer, you can see some logs underneath here. This kill time is 5 minutes 13. Then on this kill time, you would be able to use your 2 minutes for a third time. That's pretty important to note. So definitely make sure you check at the logs, see the kill time, and then think about how your guild is going to compare to the kill times of these guilds that you're looking at the logs from, and see how you're going to be using your cooldowns. So that's why I'm saying it's more important to find a log of a guild that has killed the boss for the first time, because a guild that kills the boss for the first time probably has similar item level to your guild, and then your kill time is going to be similar to that guild's kill time. So it's easier to figure out how to use your cooldowns by looking at that guild. But yeah, just wanted to make sure that you realize how important kill time is, because kill time determines how many times you can use your offensive cooldowns. And offensive cooldowns are just the number one thing a damage dealer wants to build your playstyle around, right? You want to make sure you know exactly when to use your cooldowns and how many times you can use your cooldowns and at which point of the fight you want to use them. So kill time, incredibly important because it will determine the amount of times you can use your CDs. Now going back to the more thorough log analyzing, I'm going to go into more details when I do the more specific boss videos. This should be more of a general video, so I'm just going to do some general things that you can look at in logs, all right? So one thing you want to look at, for example, you open up my log here. You can go on Naguura or whatever Moonkin you're looking at, and then you can already see where I use my cooldowns by just looking at the graph, right? You can see there's a lot of damage happening here and a lot of damage happening here, right? So it's pretty obvious that I use my cooldowns on the pull and I use them again at approximately 3 minutes. But you can see exactly where I use my cooldowns if you go to buffs. So you go to buffs over here, and then you just look at, it says major individual cooldowns. You can see Celestial Alignment, this is my trinket, and Convoke the Spirits, right? So if you click at this little plus icon here on the side, if you look at this little plus icon, then you will see a graph happening at the top where it tells you exactly where I use this. So I use the plus here, and I use the plus on Convoke the Spirits. And now you can see that I used Celestial Alignment here, and I used Convoke the Spirits here. So you can see it both lines up. This is something for Moonkins that is pretty important to note, because Convoke the Spirits is a 2-minute cooldown and Celestial Alignment is a 3-minute cooldown, right? So it's important to see, did this Moonkin line up Celestial Alignment and Convoke, or did the Moonkin use Convoke alone and Celestial Alignment with Convoke again afterwards, right? So for this specific lock, you can see I used Celestial Alignment with Convoke both times. Right, so this is a thing about cooldowns, but you can also do many more things with locks. If we remove this graph again, you can just click it away by clicking this tiny little X in the corner. What we're looking at now here is the damage, damage done, damage taken, healing, threat buffs, and so on. But you can also see timelines and also replays, which is something that is incredibly nice to see and can give you a lot of information. First of all, the timeline. If you click at timeline here, you can see when I did damage with which ability. It kind of lets you know what I did at what point in time, right? You can see here at the start that I casted a Star Surge and Solar Wrath, and then you can see I applied my dots, and then I casted Starfire, and so on. You can see the damage abilities here on the left, and you can see the graph over here. So that's something you maybe want to take a look at if you're interested in when exactly things have been used. You can also look at events at the same time. This goes into like a lot of detail. At this point, you can see what really happened at the very start. You can see Star Surge hitting the boss, Wrath, and Star Surge. This is my opener, right? Where I pre-casted the Wraths and the Star Surges. And then I applied my dots, as you can see, and then there's like a lot of details here, a lot of like single ticks of dots as well. So it's not as clear in this event to see what happened. But if you want to see a replay, then there's actually a button here at the top right that says replay. And this is very nice to see exactly not only what the person did or casted, but also how they moved, right? If you go to the replay and then you click on whatever player you want to see. For example, in this case, you want to see myself. So you click on Naguura here, and then you click on play at the bottom left. You can't see it right now because it's covered by my camera, but there's a play button at the bottom left, and you just click it, and then you immediately see what happens, right? The person that I selected has this red cone, because you can see in which direction I'm looking at right now, right? So you can see the world markers were put onto the pillars, and this is the boss's position right here. And now you can see the people walking out that have the debuff on them. And you can see I'm still just positioned in the camp. I'm still just positioned here. And you can even see what I'm casting as well. You see this icon is actually, and you can also see the cast bar here right at the bottom. Depending on what you click on, you just want to look at them, and you see I'm just wrathing right now, wrathing, Starfire, and so on, right? You can just literally look exactly of what I'm doing. If we go back to the start, you can even see my opener, for example. You can see I already have 2 Starlord stacks. So that means I already casted 2 Star Surges. Warcraft locks can't detect things that I casted before the combat started. And that's just how an opener works, right? On an opener, you're just pre-casting a bunch of abilities, and those might not be detected by the locks. At least the cast isn't being detected. It does hit the boss once the boss is in combat, so those are detected. But the cast won't be. So at this point, I already have 2 Starlord stacks. So that means I already casted 2 Star Surges, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't have those stacks. And then you can see that I'm applying Moonfire, Imperial Ordnance, Sunfire, Stellar Flare, Starfire, Star Surge, and now I'm just Starfiring, as you can see. So this is really interesting. You can also see the damage breakdown at the bottom. It's covered by my camera right now, but it's literally just like a whole breakdown of damage, exactly like you would have in-game, where it says how much damage my Star Surge did, how much damage my Shooting Stars did, and so on. So now I used my Convoke the Spirits and my cooldowns. You can see my CA is up, my Trinket is up. It even says what it gave me. See, it gave me Mastery, as you can see, which is the best you can get. So I was really lucky here getting Mastery at the start. And yeah, you can see the movement in the intermission phase as well. We'll see the intermission phase starts at 2 minutes. So let's go to 2 minutes. So yeah, at this point, you can see the boss is going towards the middle, and then there's a little bit of time that you can still DPS the boss. So you will see me, see the boss is in the middle now. I'm going close to the pillar here, finishing some of my casts, because I'm trying to min-max the damage on the boss before the boss gets immune. And now, at this point, you can see that the boss is not attackable anymore. So I'm casting some healing abilities. You can see I'm casting some rejuve, some wild growth. And this is something maybe that could help you as well, right? It's not only about damage on a boss fight, right? It's also about utility and that kind of stuff. And if you didn't think about healing in the intermission phase as a druid, then maybe looking at this replay will actually help you out and be like, oh, I could actually just use some healing in intermission phase. And you can see I used Heart of the Wild here to increase the healing that I'm doing. That's also maybe something that you didn't think about and that could help you out. So in the intermission phase, boss is not attackable, used Heart of the Wild, and then use some healing abilities to help out your raid and your healers to make sure they're saving some mana, because there's nothing else you can do anyway. So you might as well do that while you're dodging the abilities of the boss and you're dodging the echoes. All right, so that was a little bit of an insight into what exactly you can do with Warcraft logs and what research you can do before going into a boss fight, specifically on Mythic difficulty. But as I said, I will do more specific videos for each boss fight, explaining exactly what you should be preparing for each boss. I'm going to include weak RS for each boss, optimal CD usage for all ranged DPS, and maybe also melee DPS as well, and all that kind of stuff. So just make sure you check out the more specific videos if this is something that interests you. And if you have any more things that you want me to include in a video like this, then let me know in the comments below. Just let me know what you want to know about preparing for a boss fight, anything else I should be including other than CD usage and weak RS and that kind of stuff. If there's anything else, just let me know, guys. And as always, you can hop over to my Twitch stream over at twitch.tv Naguura to ask any questions that you want. And of course, also ask any questions in the comments below. Make sure you like this video if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel if you are interested in this series and future videos like these. And thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys as always, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.